What's up? What's going on, guys? What's up, Tiger fans? My name is Kenny Stubblefield with Bluff City Media, and I am joined by Hunter Story. Hunter is just kind of give a quick background. Hunter is a friend of mine who I've met over the years on message boards, and as Tiger fans, you kind of run in these same kind of circles. And Hunter was always a anonymous name, like, but he's always a lawyer. Like, always knew him. We knew him as a lawyer. He was a very smart guy, very knowledgeable guy about the Tigers and about just legal things and stuff like that. And because of that, Hunter and I developed a friendship, and now we are. I would consider you a good friend,
Absolutely.
and even that, I wanted to ask you, Hunter. Number one, how are you, man? You good?
Man, I'm good. I can't complain. I'm actually in Memphis now. Came home for the first home game. Got to see a win, so hard to complain. Enjoying my time in Memphis. I get to come home during basketball season a lot, be in the city, so I enjoy it.
Absolutely. So I want to I kind of introduced you as, me and you become good friends through the message board stuff, but over the last year, your role before we get into what your role is now,
Yeah.
tell Tiger fans like your story as a Tiger fan, like what your story in Memphis, like tell us a little bit of a background into who you are and how you became a Tiger fan.
Oh, well, how I became a Tiger fan. That's just my whole life, especially basketball. I love college basketball. I got started when Cal was here. I have a twin brother. We were ball boys for Cal, locker room manager, stuff like that when we were little. So we were in the locker room around the players with Cal, Derek Kellogg, all those guys. So I just grew up on the program. I remember working the NCAA tournament when Roy Williams in North Carolina won it. So I've grown up around Tiger basketball. And then obviously I didn't go to Memphis for undergrad or grad school. I went to
Why
Ole
don't you
Miss.
why don't you tell everybody where you went?
Went to Ole Miss, but
Uh,
that was when Tubby was here. So true story. Me and my twin brother would still get in the car and drive. We were probably one of the
yeah,
400 people in the stands.
yeah,
Um, and so yeah, like you said, I'm an attorney by trade. I work in-house counsel for tech startups, mostly doing way different type of law than what NIL is.
yeah, yeah,
And when the NIL era came about, we have a donor Tiger supporter that I'm sure a lot of people in basketball know now, Michael Hawkins. He heads up the Bluff City Collective above me, and he's our leader. So I reached out to him, actually met him through you,
that's
and just
right.
said, hey, I have a law license in Tennessee, Texas, Illinois.
Yeah,
I'm kind of up to date on this NIL stuff. If you're looking for somebody to help you out, I'm happy to join up and take part in it. So that was pre-November last year, pre-November. I can't remember when you introduced me to him, but we drew up the paperwork, founded the Bluff City Collective, launched it, and
oh,
ever since then, I do work with him to do fundraising, what we can do with events,
yeah.
charitable partners, things like coaching for literacy, events at the Rendezvous last year around the town, and just try to make the most of the NIL right now.
Yeah, I do want to say, there were times where we would ask legal advice of you, and you have a very very specific skill set when it comes to your law license and what you do and things like that. You very much were like, listen, this is not my area of expertise.
Yeah.
Well, I would ask you questions about entertainment law and things like that, and you were like, I think this is right, but you said you do in-house counsel for tech startups, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I do like this contract negotiations for large sales of software services from cloud providers to companies that you hear every day. But I think, and we'll probably touch on this a little bit. I don't think there's truly any NIL law expert, and if they say they are, that you should probably run away because
right, right,
no one
right,
can agree on this one area of law. Like there's rules, there's regulations, there's the NCAA, there's the federal government. It's If
right.
anybody says they're an expert, I would just be weary of that. But you can still stay up to date. I enjoy it. It's a fun area of law. I have a lot of freedom with what I do with my day job to spend my time. I'm lucky to have free time to spend elsewhere, and so I choose to spend it here and help Michael kind of take the Bluff City Collective, run it, and give the support that Penny needs to go out there and compete.
So, in that, did you ever think that you would be able to take your Tiger basketball fandom and move it into this arena of taking your day job, which you've spent your entire life's work working towards, and that's being a practicing lawyer. Are you? Does it kind of is it excite you to be able to take all of your worlds and combine it down into one thing with Tiger basketball?
Yeah, I mean, it's always fun to be around Tiger basketball, and I was lucky growing up to be close around the program. We since I was little, my dad we had season tickets, same spot. We've gone to all the games, but I think now, obviously, like you said, it's kind of another level of you get to be. Last year's team was super fun to be around. I know there's some ups and downs, but the guys individually on a personal level,
Yes.
99% of them were super fun to be around. It was fun to do things like take them to local middle schools, elementary schools, go to the rendezvous and have the fans there. So I think it's fun to interact at that level. On the law side, it's fine. It's fun. It's a unique opportunity, in a space that just now started. So you can't really go to school for it. I guess now you see classes are taught in law school on basics of NIL, but given what I do in contracting, once you educate yourself a little bit, it translates pretty easily. It's not that complex in that part for me. And most of the 95% of what I do for the collective is not illegal. It's just it's more of
Right.
supporting the collective and Michael and trying to help out to get whatever it is we need to get done.
Yeah.
The legal side is minimal.
Minimal. Yeah.
It's handled in the off season, and then from there it's about making the mechanics of this NIL, complex NIL world work through the season. But it's fun. I enjoy it. It has its days, it has its nights, but it's fun. And the product, I think Memphis fans should be proud of what Penny's been able to do in the portal so far. Each off season, improving that we can compete with the best.
Absolutely. So obviously, college athletics, college sports, fans of college teams. There's very little gray area, I think, for people when it comes to this new era of college sports with the NIL era and the transfer portal era. What are it's either you really like it or you just think it's the worst thing ever. I want to ask you, like, as somebody who's been a fan of college athletics for your entire life and is now on the front lines of helping with the Memphis basketball NIL, the Bluff City Collective. Why do you think, if you had to like sit down with somebody and say this is why NIL is so important for college athletics, like what's your elevator pitch for that?
All right. So I think why it's important to me, it always boiled down to one thing. It's just the right thing to do. It was long overdue. And I think anyone that's kind of stayed in touch with the whole unfolding of NIL, how it came to be, how it's played out through the courts, I just think it's the right thing to do. It was not right to deny these kids this money for so long when you see the extravaganza that occurs on game days across the country, when you see the practice facilities, when you see head
Right.
coaches and staffs being bought out for just shy of $100 million, all kinds of things. I think the elevator pitch of why I think NIL is important is because it's right. Now, I think we should take it a step further, and there's another level of NIL, and it's all about, to me, how a college or an athletic program incorporates NIL. Probably not the best school to bring up, but I did go to school there, so I keep up with it. Ole Miss, like, for example, if you look at what they've done, they've transformed NIL, which, like you said, a lot of places there is this negative connotation. It's like the thing to be a part of. You
Right.
are a part of the Grove Collective. Everyone does it. Everyone's bought in, from donating to events to merch. It's like the cool thing to do. And so I think there's a good example of a school who took NIL and turned it into a way to bring the fans closer to the players, bring the fans closer to the program, and help them, in essence, feel like they own a part of the on-field product. They're more bought in than ever. Now, on
Right.
the flip side of that coin, you've got fan bases that have become disengaged, and I think some of that's the ups and downs of winning and losing. Obviously, always have to do that. But I think overall, an elevator pitch to me is just this is beyond time to do this. The money's there. These kids, especially college football and basketball, if you know a player on a college basketball or football team that's a D1 team, you know their life is not the same as a
Right.
soccer player, a tennis player, a regular student. They're not even remotely close. And that's only continued to grow as these programs have become more monetized, media coverage has, increased. But I think overall, it's a good thing for college sports, but people need to withhold judgment as it continues to evolve because this is still the first three innings of the game.
It's
And
the infancy stage of this thing,
yeah,
right?
it's
Yeah.
still growing, and it's going to have its growing pains. You're going to see up and downs. You're going to see crazy situations. There's just so many moving parts, and I don't think we're that close to a solution. Some people may disagree, but I think that to me has always been the thing. It's right. It's the right thing to do. These kids deserve the money. These kids generate the money. They should be paid. The universities, athletic departments reap plenty of benefits from them, and yeah, I get it. Some people are never gonna see it that way. Yeah, I think that's fine. You have to just be willing to accept other people's points of view on it. And I can see their arguments for frustration. I don't think they're all invalid or
Right.
not without merit. But I do think at the end of the day, it just boils down to me to right and wrong. And I've been that way. If people, follow me, like you said, I'm not anymore, but I was a part of the Discords, message boards, and you would see me in there. I was very, pro NIL for the kids, not just Memphis kids, but kids in general.
All
Like,
the
hey,
kids. Yeah.
this moment in time, go get your money. I'm a kid first, athlete first kind of guy, and I definitely support NIL, and I support NIL unchecked. I don't think that we should get into this of trying to regulate a free market and kind of pocket watch other people and you let people spend money how they want, let players get the money that they can get, and the market it always regulates itself. Just look
It
at
re-
Texas A&M that first
right.
year. We
Right.
all know those numbers that came out, and since then it's the money's still there. It's declined, but the market brought itself in and
Yeah.
came a little bit back to earth. So it's unique space, but I think that's what it boils down to me.
All right, let's do this then. We talk about the importance of NIL, but I want to take even a step back further from that and just say there's probably people that are going to watch this are going to say, "Man, what is it?" Right? Like what is
Yeah,
NIL? Like what is it? What is it about? It
yeah,
feels to some people. I would suspect that if you talk to there are people that would say that don't understand what NIL is. That they would say it is literally taking something that has been always viewed as sleazy McDonald's bags full of cash, and now
yeah,
you're turning it into something that's legal, right? Like it just feels dirty.
yeah,
And so help people understand what name, image, and likeness, what it means, what
yeah,
it's about, and what like why is it not that?
yeah. Well, so I think NIL, what it's supposed to be is, the value that these kids bring to a community, to a city, or the value that they hold in their name individually, and they're being compensated for that at a rate that the two parties decide is fair and whatever that may be. And there's a part of it's complex because it depends on the eyes of the beholder, who's looking through it. But I think NIL generally is compensating an individual for their value, their value of their name, image, and likeness. Now, what is it right now is a stopgap in the short term for what is actually pay for play, and that's what it is around the country. No, I don't think there's really any disagreement about that by people in the know. You've seen John Calipari, you've seen Mike Krzyzewski say, "Hey, look, this is pay for play. This is just the means to the end right now, and we're on the precipice of schools compensating these athletes in a pay for play manner." And now I actually think that creates a unique moment in time because once schools are allowed to compensate these players for true pay for play, you will still have collectives hold value, but now I think the value will be more true NIL. Like, hey, this kid's being paid X amount pay for play from the school. Now let's take him out and get, these different deals. Let's help facilitate this additional payment. And so I think NIL, what it truly is compensation for the value of the young man, that student athlete. What it is in practice right now, or what it's been due to the gray areas of the law, the disagreements over what it is, and the NCAA's dying wish to keep amateur athletics is it's a pay for play under the guise of NIL. Now that brings you into what schools are doing as far as like how much are they really doing to earn this? How are they valuing it? And that to me is all a business decision in the moment based on a lot of factors that may rub some people the wrong way, and that may be where they get this kind of, hey, this is feels like the old days type deal. But I think it's just a formalized pay for play, and you incorporate a player's value in that moment in time based on the market.
So before we move into talking specifically about Bluff City Collective and
Yeah.
kind of y'all's role with the Tiger basketball program, uh, you were talking about schools getting involved in the pay for play,
Yeah.
getting involved in those kind of payments for their student athletes. That's a new thing, right? Like, isn't that kind of schools being able to be involved in whether it's negotiations or deal making or anything like that? That's a new thing, right?
Yeah, it is. The direct payments from the school is brand new. It's not gone into effect yet, but we've seen the cap numbers came out, I think, last week. Now, there's been evolution prior to that, NCAA state law level, as far as when this first started, it was like, hey, university's not going to be involved in this at all, like
Right.
not in the facilitation. The collectives can't be on campuses as part of the recruiting. They can't this, that, and the other. And so even pre-direct payment, we've seen
Right.
shifts in the law from 2 to 3 years ago where schools can be involved in these conversations, coaches can be a part of it, even coaches can promote the collective, they can promote events. We've seen a shift in like players and their ability to promote things on game day, before the game, after the game. So there's been a change in the law as far as school involvement, coach involvement, pre-direct payments, and now we've got this next step of the school's going to be able to take this number of money, whatever it may be, depending on your conference, what your school decides to do, and they're going to be able to facilitate these direct payments. And I think what you'll see, and you've seen a number of schools announce it if you follow it, is that they're going to pair these direct payments with a collective. So say your cap is 20 million, you hit it. Oh, we can't stop there. We got to compete.
Right.
We need to go above and beyond. Well, how are you going to do that? This third party outside collective is going to help facilitate additional deals on top of that for this kid, this recruit, whatever it may be, to get them. So I think you've seen an evolution in the law, and then the direct payment is now the next step in where the long way we've come from where we started, which was collectives on your own, schools not involved, um, to where we are now, and when that will start next year.
So I know that there are people that are watching this that immediately go, schools direct payment to kids. Ugh. Because I'll be frank with you, man. I'm not an old guy,
Yeah.
but I feel a little bit of that myself. Like, does that not kind of what would be your response to somebody saying, man, does that not just remove the amateurism out of this altogether?
My response is I think if you look at it on a factual level, the day to day life of a college football or basketball player, because that's really what we're talking about here is these two sports. The amateur argument that the NCAA has put forth in court for decades it was long ago shattered. And I think the facts and their daily lives don't bear out that this is amateur athletics.
Yeah.
I think we have a recent example that could show you this. Look, this is not amateur athletics. Look at Virginia. I mean, these kids, they commit to a school. I'm sure they all have NIL deals, whatever it may be. That's not even what matters. But 20 days before a season starts, coach up and quits and cites like, hey, I just can't do this anymore. I don't know. And that's not a perfect example of why they're not amateurs. But I think if you look at that and kind of their day-to-day lives of media commitments, travel commitments, practice commitments as compared to the other non-revenue generating sports, it's just not the same life.
It's not the
You
same
know,
life. Yeah,
they're
it's different.
at minimum they're semi-pro athletes who also go to school. But I think if you look under the hood, not the case at every school, but the priority is the sports, not the academics. Obviously, that's not the same at Stanford, Duke, Yale, whatever those
Right.
maybe, but
Right.
I don't think anyone should be under the illusion that this is not, they're not, you know, what do they say? Student athlete. They're athletes who happen to go to school and they
Right.
make the schools a lot of money.
A
I,
lot of money.
yeah.
Like,
And I think they're just, the number that they're getting is just a piece of the pie, and it's, it's equitable, it's fair, it's reasonable, and it's long overdue. And so it's tough to change long held opinions. I'm not, I don't think anybody should be under the illusion that it's easy to change, deep long held opinions. But I think there's been such a radical change in the sport of college basketball and football in the last 3 decades. It's just, I think college
and it
football
and
stays.
it all boils down to the amount of money that's flowing
Yeah,
through
yeah,
those two sports specifically, right? Like
yeah,
the amount of money, the TV deals, the sponsorship dollars, the things that are
yeah,
coming through, it is an insane amount of money. And
yeah,
so I think what you talked about with it's kind of given these kids who are putting their bodies and their time and their energy
yeah,
into this, it's giving them a seat at the table.
yeah.
I would say, right?
Yeah, I think the seat at the table they long ago deserved. I think they were given a seat at the table for a long time, but it didn't have true meaning. There's no true say, and especially in football, like you said, there's only a finite amount of time you play football, and the amount of wear and tear on your body, is especially for football players during those years in college, is just, it can change. It can have long term life effects. I mean, in the pro career for those people is not very long. But if the NFL is the NFL, but a college on a Saturday is going to have 80, 90, 100, 110,000 people at your game. The town will be packed with hundreds of thousands of people.
Right.
Corporate sponsors are now on fields. They're, all over the stadium. It's been corporatized long
It's
ago.
been big business for a
Yeah,
very
it's
long
big
time.
business. And hey, I wouldn't want to give up a
Hey,
percentage of my money if I was, those groups. I don't blame them. I would want to keep it all for myself. But I think this is just more of long overdue, righting of wrongs and realization of what college football and basketball is right now. And
yeah.
that's it's pro sports, pro expectations. If you can't cut it, you can't cut it. We'll go get somebody else who can. And there's no, if the coaches are unflinchingly, harsh, I think it's a business. This is not, they get
Yeah.
an education too, but it is a big business.
Right. Um, so Bluff City Collective, let's get into that for a second. How long has Bluff City Collective been the official collective for the Tiger basketball program?
I should have written the dates down. I don't remember. I honestly don't remember our
It's been
official.
less than a season. It's
Yeah.
been less than a
Well,
year.
I think it was early November last year. Maybe it was October. So I think it's been a year, a little over a year. The 901 Fund existed prior to us and covered all sports, and they've done a fantastic job. Obviously, with
Fantastic.
football, look at what football's been able to do, other sports, and we just developed as sort of this offshoot to support men's basketball because I think everyone knows Memphis men's basketball is a unique entity, and right now is led by a head coach who's a unique entity in himself. Basketball's got a special place in the city. So it's a little over a year now, I think, since the official launch of the men's basketball only, focused collective.
So, um, obviously, I want to kind of get to the nitty gritty of this.
Yeah.
Bluff City Collective's name has been in the news quite a bit over the last, Tiger basketball NIL over the last couple of weeks. And there's been a lot of conversations floating back and forth about, you know, the collective and NIL basketball, Tiger basketball NIL, and players and things like that. I want to just kind of give, if you had to like open the hood of Bluff City Collective, look at the engine, diagnose things. How healthy is the Tiger Basketball Collective, the Bluff City Collective's NIL fund right now? How healthy would you say it is?
I think the collective and all of our, the pot that we have through our related parties and partners that, goes towards compensating these athletes is very healthy. It's up there in the country. Like it's up there. We're obviously competitive. People can look at the last two off seasons and see that Memphis was able to go out, just this year. We've got 6 name transfers. We've got a guy who scored, 20 plus points a game. You've got a point guard from one of the bigger programs in the country. He was one of the top 3 point guards in the country. You've got a former Big 12 Defensive Player of the Year coming here to play, so it's healthy. I think there's maybe a misunderstanding about how the whole pot comes to be, how the whole process comes to be, but the collective itself is a vehicle for the collective through donors, fans, partners, corporate sponsors who have indirect relationship with us, and we kind of play in the middle facilitating this pot of money to go to these athletes and compensate them for whatever the total fee agreed to is for them to come here for their name, image, and likeness rights. But I think overall it's healthy. It will continue to be healthy. It's got a great group of support, like I said, great group of donors, great group of local, charitable partners that are really special to us, and those are only growing. And then corporate sponsors, through the university with those type of partnerships. It's a healthy pot that I think will continue to be super competitive year in and year out, as Penny goes into the off season and into the portal to go and get guys to come here and play. And I think, if you look at some of the guys last year, there's probably a sour taste in how it ended, but transfers have had success coming here. I mean, transfers have had success coming here. Two of Memphis fans' favorite people, Kendrick Davis and DeAndre Williams, transfers here. Landers Nolly was a really good player. He left, but I think he had a really good career here. And obviously, we're looking forward to, PJ, Tyrese, Dane, Musa, all these guys that we've got this year coming in here and seeing what they could do. They got started on Friday night in a good fashion. And so,
Yep.
you know, we're
Speaking
excited
of,
for it.
how awesome is it to see Musa back out there in a Tiger uniform?
I was sad when he left originally because
So
I
was I.
think people forget he was so young coming into college, and I mean he anchored a really good defensive team that year.
The
He
last
helped
time Memphis was number one in in
yeah, he
total
helped
defense.
anchor it, and I think people, last year he had a little bit of up and down year. They had Jamarian Sharp too. He had ups and downs that year, but they're forgetting this guy was the defensive player of the year in the best conference in college basketball that season that he was DPOY. I mean, it's pretty impressive, and I think you saw a lot like the other night. You come down the paint, we've got a rim protector. He's
Yeah,
swatting balls from across the backboard.
unbelievable.
It's awesome to watch. I'm excited to have him, and he's great. Like he's awesome. He's
Yeah.
such a good man. Like he's gonna. I think I wouldn't be shocked if he's the unanimous defensive player of the year this year in the conference.
Well, I was talking to him actually over the offseason, and I said, and one of the things that Penny has been able to do really well is have good big men in his program, and I go, it's interesting because I remember Musa playing for the University of Memphis, but I always wondered like why is it not stick like Precious Achiuwa, Jalen Duren, those guys that have come through, and you're just like, why is this one not sticking? And I think the saddest part for me is that I realized it was during the COVID years where we weren't allowed to go to games. The fans weren't allowed to go see. They were playing in front of empty arenas, and I was like, man, that was when Musa was
Yeah,
playing very well for the Tigers,
yeah.
right? Like playing very well, and I'm glad that he's able to come back and kind of
Finish.
rewrite his story with the University of Memphis, because I just don't think fans got to know him the way that they would love him if they got to know him the way that the man that he is. I think so.
Yeah, I think we'll have events like we did last year. I think people will get to be around him. He's so happy. He's happy to be back in Memphis. He is.
Yes.
You see his post game conference comment. Sorry, he's here. He's excited to be back. He's all in, and he wants to have a big year. And I think he's about to. And I think one thing that year he was just he skipped that last year and reclassed, and he had all these. I remember Bleacher Report posting like fifth ranked Musa Cease committed to Memphis after reclassifying, and just like even I think NIL conversation is perfect for this. He was what 17 years old at the time, and the expectations were just huge for a kid who was still developing, playing basketball while also being an elite shot blocker, like an elite rim protector, an elite athlete. So Yeah, I
Right.
think people missed out on seeing that. His minutes weren't well, he wasn't playing 38 minutes a night either, but he was super effective. And so I think people missed that first go around. But you saw the other night after that 5-second violation. I mean, he's
Oh yeah.
amped up, flexing his muscles, and he's ready to go. It was awesome to watch him play. I was enjoyed that as a fan moment.
Yeah, I was actually sitting in front of you at the game, and I was experiencing it with you and your dad too. I was like, "This is awesome, man!" Like
Yeah,
seeing him out there, it was fun.
yeah, my dad, he's obviously older than me by a good bit. He enjoys. I looked over at him. He was enjoying. He's like, man, I'm so glad to have Musa back. This is fun to watch him out there.
Yes, it is.
Just the dunks, the blocks, and watching him run the floor. It was fun for sure.
Yep. So with the collective, let's go back to the collective for a
Yeah,
second. Um, so it's been a season, it's been about a year that the collective has been engaged. 2 off seasons, really, where
yeah,
you to there are you mentioned in your earlier in our earlier conversation about the NIL collective and how money is received and things like that. You talked about donations and corporate sponsors.
yeah.
Is that so? Like, if a Tiger fan is listening to this, how is it that they get involved? Like, can they get involved with the NIL collective as well in terms of donating to the NIL collective?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think fans can donate directly to the collective, both to Bluff City Collective for Memphis, men's basketball, and to the 901 Fund. I think Bluff City Collective, we encourage fans to donate to both, to be
To both,
involved in all of it,
absolutely.
because fan support is important. And I think if you're a fan who has a local business, there's opportunities there as well. If you want to get your business involved in NIL, you reach out, and we facilitate these deals for companies and these appearances through their marketing budgets, through their marketing departments, to have these guys come out and do whatever the event may be. I think that's one thing for NIL is you can be creative. So
Yeah.
yeah, fans can definitely get involved directly, joining both collectives, and there's certain perks for that. But if they want to get involved more, or they're looking for something that's even a fan, they want to do a specific event and have certain players, come out. There's no issues with the collective helping facilitate that, relationship, coming up with a compensation for it and getting that player out to whatever the fans may want to be. Obviously there's caveat that we'll have to see what the ask is. We have to, there's certain rules around, for example, like
What
gambling.
they can and can't do.
Yeah, there's certain rules. So but that's never been an issue. But I think it's fun. We've had, last year I think Malcolm Dandridge went to a long time Tiger fan donor, members birthday party as
Yeah.
a NIL event, going to a birthday party. We sent a couple of kids birthday parties, just even having them send happy birthday video. It's small things, little things, but it can also be larger scale
Right.
events, happenings. So yeah, there's a fan involvement can be a lot of different ways, and I think I'm hoping we'll continue to see the evolution of fan involvement now that the universities are allowed to free to include more um, optionality with game day experiences and stuff like that. I think those type of opportunities for fans are only going to expand.
So I have a feeling you're not going to answer this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway
All
because
right.
this is what we do. Um, in in the time that Bluff City Collective has been the official collective for the Tiger basketball program, you talked about the health of the NIL fund, and you talked about the health of the collective, and that it is competitive. The Tiger basketball NIL is competitive with all of the bigger schools that are out there. How much money has the collective paid out to players over
Well,
the last year?
yeah, yeah. We have confidentiality obligations as far as the specific amounts and stuff. So I can't go into those numbers, unfortunately. And I know Memphis fans all want to hear them. Trust me, I've seen the numbers floating out there.
Right.
Seen
How
I've
many of them are wrong is my question.
I've seen them. I've heard them. We've refrained from commenting on that because it doesn't. I know
Right.
I get why people want to know, but like I said, we have obligations that we have to keep, and I think there's also sort of a we can't we don't we choose not to disclose those for a variety of reasons. But what I can say is I think last year we were top, I would say top 9 in the country, and you know that total amount. And I think this year will be in that same ballpark. And as of right now, I would say that some of our guys have received more than 99% of players in the country have received yet, and probably more than 70% will receive all year. So it's healthy. We can't get in. I can't get into the specific numbers of what we've paid out year over year, each year, but I think we've been. I can tell Tiger fans that we've been in the top 10ish range so far, competitive wise with other programs.
So I think that is when we talk about the health of it, like
Yeah,
obviously nobody wants to pocket watch, right? Like we're not pocket watching what players are getting and things like that. But I think that um, I guess that's been I think the large topic of conversation over the last couple of weeks is just you know is there is the collective healthy enough to fulfill
yeah,
contracts that they have in place with players that are a part of the Tiger basketball program? And I don't want to get into that. Like
yeah,
that's not
yeah,
my it's not. I don't think it's any of our business. Like there's legal remedies to
yeah.
everything that's involved in this. But I want to ask you about contracts. That's what I want to ask you
Well,
about
before
because
we start, the answer is yes. We're yeah. We fulfill our obligations. We will fulfill our obligations. By the end of the term, obligations will be fulfilled. Just like last year, it'll be the same case this year. So no concerns there, at least for me on that end.
so so you're telling me that the collective has fulfilled contracts in the past and will fulfill contracts in this season as well and moving forward
Yep.
the next couple of seasons. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. They are. We will fulfill our obligations. In facilitating that total fee payment from the collective and through our related parties, how we position guys to receive certain payments from certain entities by selecting them for certain programs. At the end of the day, the total fee that's promised will be paid. No issues with that. And like I said, last year, I think early last year there was outside of Memphis insinuations that wasn't the case, and it ended up being the case, of course. Um, so no,
Isn't there always insinuations though, right? Like isn't that kind of the easy way to, and this is just me
yeah,
speaking. This isn't I'm not speaking for you.
yeah,
But it does feel like to me that when you have a group of professionals that are doing the work on the collective side, um, and there seems to be some disgruntledness, I think, on the other side of it. It's easy to go, well, it's the money, right? It's the NIL because that's the quickest way to go, to I think disparage a program, if
yeah,
you will, in today's day and age.
yeah. And I think we've seen. I think we saw last year I want to say it was the USC defensive lineman's dad came out, and they had signed a contract. They had looked at it, and long story short, they were like, "Hey, we signed up for X amount of money." In the contract, at the end of the day, when the terms of the contract came out, it was like, actually, we agreed to pay you up to X amount potentially. And then the collective reserved the right, not our collective, the collective I'm speaking about, to at their sole discretion decide, who got NIL activities, activations, when they happened, if they got them. So I think we've seen like option contracts basically, or like a promise of maybe you'll make this much, but we'll decide how much it is. We don't do that. I'm not a fan of that as a pro athlete kind of guy. And then you've seen the stuff at UNLV where it's like, hey, we just had this oral agreement for X amount of money, and there's disputes over an oral agreement, which I think probably raises your next point of like, hey, just there's contracts now, and people should be doing it. But I think people should understand not every school, a lot of schools do not do contracts. They're not doing them. They don't do them. And, even some schools that are doing contracts are doing a certain type of contract that is more of an up to contract and not a, hey, we're going to pay you this much. Now, the details of, hey, we'll pay you this much can vary widely, because there is still this component of you make the contract however you want, as long as it's, reasonable, fair, not violating applicable law. But you see a lot of different models around the country, and there's still, like I said, people that don't even do contracts. Like we saw at UNLV, we know they
Right.
did. There was no contracts.
There
So,
was no contract.
yeah,
So
and
why is it so is it those kinds of issues that cause you to say, like, Bluff City Collective is going to have contracts in place with the players that
yeah.
that they work with?
Yeah, I think the non person with the collective, like just general. I mean, I think the contracts just make sense. Like if a player came to me and asked, and they were a friend of mine, and I knew them, and they're like, "Hey, I'm going to do NIL," I would say, "Hey, just get a contract in writing." Now, the specific terms of which, I would say, you've got to leave that up to a player and their agent, representative, whatever, to negotiate that on the front end if they don't like it. um, that's a whole different story of like nitty gritty down to the detail contract negotiation. I don't think we really go too much into that, but yeah, I think just general practice for certain guys, you should have contracts, and that doesn't mean that doesn't even mean you have to have a contract with every player.
Right.
And there may be some guys who, like that quarterback in UNLV, who were okay with an oral promise to pay a certain amount. um, and I think UNLV may say like, "Hey, I wish we had a contract now," but I,
Yeah.
I think it's. I don't think there's. I think that's one thing people don't maybe see yet is there's no standard across college athletics. There's no standard way of doing business. There's no standard contract template. There's not even we don't even agree on the laws and regulations yet.
Right.
Like we're
Right.
not even in agreement on that. So yeah, I think having contracts, especially for certain players, is good to just have it in writing. And then I think there's a different side of that. Whereas like they've got windows now. Basketball doesn't have it yet, but football has that 4-game window where it's like, hey, do I have faith in the execution of this contract? Do I have faith in it, or am I better off like going somewhere else? And I think that's not even a legal or decision. I think that's more of an individual, personal decision that people across the country we've seen it made. The portal in football, it's already filling up, and we've just got the first CFP rankings, and for 6 weeks you've had kids saying, "Hey, I'm gonna take my red shirt and I'm gonna get in the portal." Basketball's a little bit different until that rule goes into effect, but yeah, I think contracts, just general practice for certain guys, it's good to have them. And I think as we move forward in this NIL era, that it'll become common practice, especially when the direct payments come from schools. I think it'll become common practice they'll be in place for players, especially for football and basketball. I don't know. I can't really speak for how it's going to go for non-revenue generating sports. I don't know.
Do you think that I mean, it feels like to me contracts and the way that the way that you guys do your contracts is it's designed to not only protect the collective, but it's also designed to protect the athlete as well, right? Like it's designed to help them as well. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think it's more of just a formalization of understandings, because like you said, there can be people saying, "Oh, hey, I was, so and so orally promised me this, or I was told this, I was told that." So it gives you something to kind of go back to. And I think collectives who operate with multiple related parties, where the payments may not all be coming directly from the collective, but they're working towards this total fee,
Right.
it also gives you the opportunity to create, flexibility to take care of, all your guys, to, have that wiggle room to adjust if you need to collect the money when it comes in. Cause I think people also sometimes assume that, donors everyone in, what is it? July is like, hey, let me, I'm going to write one check for the whole year. And that's not always the case.
That's
Or,
just not the way it works, right?
well, and then
Yeah.
you have corporate sponsors who may be paying guys, a certain amount of that total fee owed, doing their events, and you got to, maybe that event's not till October, maybe they're not doing anything until Christmas. I think contracts are good, and collectives should, retain flexibility while also looking at it and saying like, hey, we need to be reasonable, not we're going to pay you $1 a month for 11 months, and then in month 12 we'll pay you the the whole fee that's left on the second to last day of the contract. Like, I don't think that's reasonable. but I think it's good to build in flexibility, so that way you can maneuver. And when you have unique opportunities with charitable partners, with corporate sponsors who can help facilitate, part of that total fee, you kind of select those kids and say, hey, we're going to make you part of this program. Hey, we're going to put you through this event with our related party. And that is, that you have that wiggle room. But I think it's not pay for play either. So there has to be activity tied to it. Lump sums up front are a thing for certain grants of rights. We see that. But at the end of the day, there also has to be activity. And so that's where I think contractually people can be creative
Right.
in how they do it.
There has to be some kind of deliverable to then receive that payment, right?
Yeah,
Like, is that
generally
what you're
speaking,
saying?
generally speaking, that's how the practice is supposed to go. But no, there's no, some people do receive, a little bit of, certain amount of payments up front. I don't know, based on what I know, I'm pretty confident in saying that there's no standard, and it's definitely not the norm or even the majority right now that kids are being paid their entire sum up front, or they're receiving 50 to 60% up front before first game. Now, I think there's a lot of people who maybe got, a 5-10%, upfront lump sum, started off, and then they're paid monthly. I think there's some schools who probably do, hey, we're going to pay you X amount every month, the exact same on the same date. There's some schools who do, will pay you varying amounts each month. I think there's a lot of ambiguity. I don't know if it's the perfect word, but there's a lot of inconsistency on that part. And it's,
Right.
we don't have every school's contract. We don't know what every
It's
school
not
is doing.
it yeah.
You know, there's still that part of the, we hear the stories of, hey, so and so graduated and never got this. They're out in the portal now. So there's a inconsistency there, and there's also an unknown factor of, like, you can hear rumors of what a school is doing. You can hear rumors of how these things are structured, but until everyone's publishing them publicly, you don't really know for certain.
And that's what I would say. Like, I think it's super easy to get on, to go public and say, this is what has happened, this is what we're doing, this is what we've been promised until and this is why I think contracts are so important to what you guys are doing, is that it then allows you to say, well, here's what the contract says.
Yeah,
And up to this point, this is what we've done. We are not in breach of this contract that we have that has been signed by all parties.
yeah,
And then you just say, so it's easy to talk, but
yeah,
when you have a contract in place, it not only protects the collective, the donors, the corporate sponsors, but also protects the player from,
yeah,
just kind of a peace of mind to know this is what we can expect, and
yeah.
this is what I have to do to make this happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think UNLV, you saw that, like, you saw that perfect example play out of, hey, I was promised X amount, whatever it may be, by UNLV. I can't remember the details right off the top of my head, but
It was like an extra. I think it was like an extra 300,000 or something like
yeah,
that.
something like that. But it was just like, hey, we agreed on this. I was orally promised extra this, and then he said, she said, long story short, kid ends up in the portal.
Right.
And so I think, that's, hey, if he wants to go in the portal, though, I'm not against a. I think fans would probably not like that, but I'm not against it. If you think there's a better opportunity out there and you're able to
Oh, absolutely.
do that, like, go get it. Hey,
Go get
if
it.
UNLV quarterback can go and get 500, 700, whatever it may be, I think go do it. Hey, I mean, this is a moment. I think that's another thing. Like, this is a moment in time. This is, especially in football for certain positions, like, just like basketball, when this, and, the supply and demand of the market, like, this is a moment in time where you can go get your money. If you want to go somewhere else, I think you should be able to go, just like Tony Bennett, should be able to quit 20 days before the season.
Right.
And kind of go, make the decision that's best for him. And so I think kids should go where they're most comfortable with. And then if they're not comfortable there, or they don't have faith in whatever it is they agreed on, or whatever it may be, go get your money. Go get your money. I'll always personally support that. Go get your money as much as you can, as fast as you can. Because, hey, I live in the real world. I have a job, outside of this, that I actually do receive compensation from, and I'm the same way. I'm going to go get the best situation for me, the most money, and I'm gonna, I'm not gonna stay somewhere if I think, I can go get more elsewhere, and it's a better situation. Also, at the same time, you do that same analysis of like, hey, can I go get more money? Is the situation the same or better such that it's worth making this move, or am I going to get more money and the situation's a lot worse, so it doesn't make sense? I think they're going through the same business decision every day-to-day person makes when they're going to work, and it shouldn't be, they shouldn't be judged any differently than anybody else who's out there. Because
Absolutely.
I can promise you, if somebody called me tomorrow and it's a good, solid place and they offer to triple my salary, I don't even know that I'm not even going to give my employer 2 weeks. I'm saying, hey, my paycheck's about to triple. I got to go.
I gotta go. Y'all can keep that
That's
2
just
weeks. Y'all can
part
keep
of
the. Yeah, no, I feel
it.
you on that.
Part of it. I think, and if you have obligations, like some individual employees, not NIL, they have obligations of like, there's certain C-suite employees like that who have different obligations. Obviously, if you have those obligations, you got to follow them. But for at will employment or things where you're allowed to make that move up until a certain date, yeah, go. I mean, you got to do what's best for you. You got to do what you have faith in, and that's really all you can do. And I think when you only get a certain amount of time to make that kind of money. The opportunity's minimal as in the grander scheme of your whole life. You got to go do what you got to do. So that's more of just a personal point of view, but
Love it. I love it. Well, listen, we're gonna close this up. We've been going about 53 minutes, and I think that people are gonna be like, I don't understand all of this, but
yeah,
I appreciate the fact that you've been willing to come on and kind of share from the what the goal of the collective is and what you guys have
yeah,
been doing and what you guys are going to do, and just maybe helping Tiger fans understand the benefit of name, image, and likeness funding, and why this collective is so important to make sure that all this is being done well. Where can people find you at? Where can people find the collective? How
yeah.
can they get involved? Tell us how they can get involved.
We're both on Twitter, the collective and me. Mine's, I think it's Hunter Story 11. Don't quote me on it, but Bluff City Collect is on Twitter and Instagram. You can reach out to myself or our executive director, Michael Hawkins, who I think is, phenomenal. And I enjoy working with him.
He's the man. He's the
He's the
man.
only reason why I'm willing to do this, for free, to be a help out. We both of us don't, that's one thing. Neither of us take anything from this. We don't take compensation. We're not compensated by the collective. We don't take anything. I don't ask for anything. I come out of my own pocket to come to Memphis to do it. I don't care. And I think for me, it's just supporting. We both want Memphis to win and doing what we can to help. And so it's just trying to help Michael, do what he needs to do. And Michael, I think, is one of the, for Memphis fans who haven't met him yet, is just, he loves Memphis basketball. He loves Memphis, period, sports, but loves Memphis basketball. And I can guarantee y'all, gone above and beyond to do his part to get this thing like rolling, to keep it rolling, and to take care of it. So I think it's always he's my guy. So whatever I can do to help him, he's awesome. And so you probably can't reach him on Twitter, but he is on the Bluff City Collective Twitter account too. So if you ever want to talk to him, he'll see your DMs. I
He'll see
always
your
enjoy
DM.
DMing with fans. But yeah, you can reach us there, or our email is listed on the Twitter and Instagram. If you want to get involved, or your business wants to get involved, you can reach us there anytime.
I'll put it all down here at the
Yeah,
bottom too for you.
yeah, I
So
think it's Hunter Story 11, but I'm not sure.
yeah,
But I try just to, tweet or share the Memphis basketball post and stay out of the rest of it. But
yeah.
no,
All
thanks for
right.
having me. I enjoyed it. And like I said, this is fun. I enjoy it. I hope people, um, are excited for this season and what you were able to, load up on in the off season. Some of the guys we talked about. And,
Yeah.
I just enjoy being a part of Tigers, especially with Ed Scott now. We're really looking forward to that. The school's evolving. And like I said, just me doing what I can to support Michael and the collective and, the best way possible, get this thing going.
There you go. All right. Appreciate you, man. Have a
Thanks.
good one. Hey, listen, next time you come to a game, try not to scream at the ref so loud.
I'll
You're
try
you're
not.
you're cra- you're, you're a little crazy. You and your dad, y'all are wild, man.
Hey, they try to take out PJ's legs.
They took out.
We weren't booing the play. I wasn't.
Yes.
And I
Can
was
we?
upset that he took out PJ's legs. I'm like,
Yes.
you're gonna hurt our guys. Get off him. And they weren't helping out. So yeah, I've gotten a few warnings through the years. It started when I was like 9 years old. I think they threatened to kick me out of the Tennessee game that year, the 1-2 matchup.
Oh, wow, you were 9 years old then?
I was something years old. I wasn't as old as I am
Jesus.
now, but yeah, they.
I'm an
So
old man.
I try to take care of it. I think last year got ripped on TV too, so it's okay. It happens. Yeah, I think a ESPN2 announcer ripped me and said I should be sitting down and relaxing or something. I don't know, but
You're like,
yeah,
"Bro, this ain't golf, man. What are you
I
talking
don't know.
about?"
I was upset.
I
I
I
enjoy
would
it.
say
It's my
this,
one passion. It's my like
we
most passionate thing is Tiger basketball.
I do want Tiger fans, we do know, and I hope that Penny will soon realize that y'all weren't booing the Tiger team. Y'all were booing the fact that they almost took PJ Haggerty's legs out and the refs didn't call it. So,
Pat Adams
um,
is never a friend, so
he is never a
we all
friend.
know that. He's so bad that we all know his name. So
It is wild that we all know his name. I was thinking about that during the game. I was like, it is wild to me that everybody in this whole arena knows
yeah,
that man's name.
I think it's the only ref's name I know across the whole country, and
100%.
it's been years since I've known his name. And but he's a staple of Memphis games, and fortunate or not,
He's
he's
always there.
likely to be on the call. Yeah, yeah.
All right, Hunter. Thank you,
Yeah,
man. I appreciate you,
thank
brother.
you. Yeah, have a good one.
All
Talk
right.
soon.